everybody. Welcome into the show tonight. I'm Jessica Jones. I'm the Cryptid Huntress. And boy, do we have a great show for you guys tonight. I have remote viewed something that I had heard of once before, but I've never really looked into this. It's called the Kishi, and it's out of Southern Africa, you guys. This is a cryptid, which is a part man, part beast type of a creature. And it's a thing of legend and lore. Okay. And so, some people say it's just a mythological creature. My data says otherwise tonight, you guys. So we're going to discuss this. I hit 2 or 3 targets. Actually, it was 3 or 4 on this. And so, of course, I've got Barry Littleton here in the studio with me tonight. And we are going to tackle this remote viewing target with you guys tonight. It's awesome. I have not even talked to Barry about all this data. We texted back and forth, and he let me know that I was on target. Okay. So if you guys would like to follow along with what I'm doing, you guys please go to my website. That's the cryptidhuntress.com. And you can find all of my shows there, all of the events that I'm going to be speaking at, anything that I'm doing. It's on that website. Okay. And lots of other stuff too. I've even got some like a shop there, and y'all can even get a tarot card reading for me too. That's in my shop. I'm still offering those up. Occasionally I do put those up there and offer those to the public, to my soul family, anybody who feels called that needs a reading. They're on there. Okay. So you guys go check that out. Also, if you'd like to follow along with my data for tonight, that is all posted on my Patreon. And so please go become a member of my Patreon, and shout out to all of my Patreon members. I've got a great Patreon family, and I did mail out all those packages this month, except for a couple. I don't have your addresses. I keep saying that every show. Y'all, I don't have your mailing address and you're a VIP member, please send that to me. Okay. You can find me on my website, or send me a message on social media or wherever. I'll get it. Okay. I check that every day. I try my best. Okay. Also, I do have a shop. It's called War Woman Goods, and that's on Etsy. And shout out to everybody who has supported me through that. I sell old vintage Native American turquoise jewelry. And so I've been doing that for a long time, and it's a great little fundraiser for me. So thank you guys for all your support. I do appreciate it. Okay. Well, let's get into this really wild target tonight. Okay. Let me read about it before I bring Barry up. Okay. And shout out to everybody in my live chat tonight. All my moderators. Thank y'all for being here. Y'all are the best. Absolutely. Okay. So we've all known a two-faced demon in our lives at one point or another. Am I right? Or am I right? Okay. Well, tonight we are talking exclusively about the Kishi. Okay. The Kishi. The Kishi is a creature of legend in South Africa, or in Southern Africa. I don't want to just say South Africa. It's Southern Africa in a couple of different countries. Okay. It's said to be a two-faced demon having an attractive human face on one side of its body and a hyena on the other side of its head. The Kishi uses its charm in order to lure in beautiful women. And in some legends, the Kishi will take its victims to a secluded area and proceed to eat them. But in other versions of the myth, the Kishi will marry its victim and have a child with that woman, and then savagely kill the woman and take the child. And then the child becomes a flesh eater, just like the father. Okay. And it's terrifying, y'all. It's terrifying. But they also, it's to be noted that they terrorize their victims before they eat them. What does that sound like? Okay. They're all, if I hadn't learned anything, y'all, I've learned that that's what dogmen do. And some of these other crazy cryptids we have here in the United States, they do that. They terrorize their victims and they play with them a little bit before they eat them. Okay. And we all know why that is. And it's got something to do with their blood. Okay. Well, please help me welcome to the show tonight. I have Barry Littleton here. He is one of my good friends, an amazing researcher, a talented researcher, an experiencer. You guys go check out his YouTube channel. It's called Barry Littleton over on YouTube. And please join his Patreon as well. Help me welcome to the show, Barry Littleton, tonight. Hey, Barry.
Hey, what's up, Jessica? What's happening? Hello to your audience also.
Yes,
Greetings on this somewhat odd and morbid target.
I love it. I love it. Hey, I'm just over here melting. That's all. It's only 90 something degrees at 8 o'clock at night here in Georgia, and it's humid. I could cut the
I
air
got
with a knife right now.
got up to
Yeah.
101, 102 here today. It's been very
Whew,
hot and kind of a little bit
man,
humid too, you know.
it's superhuman. It's superhuman. I was going to say superhuman. Superhuman. Got to be superhuman to deal with this heat, though. Seriously. But hey, I'm glad you're here. You just came through with another amazing target. I was not expecting this. I never know what to expect, Barry, when you give me these blind targets. Yeah.
You
Tell
know,
me your
I had
interest.
contemplated whether, I don't usually traditionally like sending you anything that's dark, and this is kind of dark, but it's nonetheless it's a cryptid that I think that is not acknowledged enough and known about enough, and it's good to shed some light on it.
Yeah. Why do you think it's not heard of very often? Of course, it's in another country. We're international tonight. It's in another on another continent. But why do you think that we don't talk about that very much? Other
Oh
cryptids.
boy, because it's the black thing. It's Africa. It's melanin dominant, and that just doesn't fly in these communities very much. Okay, it's just not discussed as much. And I'm hoping that now that that's starting to change slightly, and more lights coming to that thing, and coming to such subjects as that. So I think that's the main reason a lot of people haven't heard of this. And it's in another country,
Yeah.
but also it's going with the black thing.
Okay.
And
Well, go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh no, no. I had a thought. No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I said, well, how I came to have an interest in this anyway is connected to such a thing. I actually, believe it or not, I have degrees not in it's not in paranormal research, but I do have one in ethnic studies and minority studies. And in college, I got to interact with a lot of students from Africa, several different countries from there. And there's this one gal that I was hanging out with quite a bit, and she was from, I think it was Lagos, Nigeria,
Okay.
and she had talked about us, we're at the age in our early 20s, talking about going out or something. And she had mentioned she didn't like going to clubs. And
Okay.
I said,
Why?
why? She goes, well, she said that she had to be careful of the Kishis, where she's from, the Kishi.
Ooh.
I didn't never heard of that, and I always have an interest in, of course, cryptid and the paranormal. It's always come to me in one way or another. So we got to talking about it. And she had said that when she described it, she said there are these brothers that show up in the clubs, and they look like they're real charming, and they've got these dreads that cover this other side, this
Yeah.
animal side, but they've got these dreads and they're super charming, and that they abduct people and everything that we read. So it's that's the way I'd heard about it. So that was that far back, and it just gave me. I'm interested always in the ones that would be. In this case, it's a hyena, but the wolves, the dogs, the things that are, this is neither a werewolf nor exactly a full quote unquote skinwalker shapeshifter. This is something different. So that gave me the interest in it.
It's something a little bit different. That's right. And so I ultimately did 4 targets on this. Okay, but one of them doesn't really count. Okay, because uh, was it last week or week before last? Like I had kind of cross-referenced a whole bunch of different targets. I did way too many at once. And actually, and I'll just go ahead and say it. This target was one of those that was kind of we're going to forget about that first one because it got cross referenced with the Bermuda Triangle target. Okay, so we're not going to discuss that target tonight. He gave me a brand new blind target this week. Okay, and so we're going to and I hit on it 3 times, right, Barry? 3 times. The
4.
same target, a blind target. I had no clue what this was, y'all. I had a set of numbers, and that's what Barry gave me. And I went back and I looked at this thing 3 times. And the first time I hit this target, it was I got it in general sense, right? But as each time went, he kept telling me, you kept telling me to go back, Barry, and it just kept getting closer to target and more information and more information. So I couldn't quit. I was so tired when I was doing this too. And the more tired I got, the better I did with the target too, Barry. I noticed that was weird. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, thank you, Amy, for love and light to you too. Thank you for that super chat. That's very sweet of you. We love you here at the Cryptid Huntress, Amy. But yeah, the more tired I got, Barry, the better I was doing. I should have just done another one before I fell asleep, but I was like, I can't do it. So I was worried I was going to be dreaming about the Kishis all night. So yeah.
On the club, on the club, hanging out with the brothers, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, that's a scary thought. Okay. And so there are people who are clearly worried about going to the clubs or going anywhere, meeting a handsome gentleman who, I mean, I've dated a couple of two-faced demons. Okay. Potentially married one. I'm not just going to say, I'm just saying, just saying. So it's, but I don't know, to have something hiding underneath your hair, to have a whole other head behind your hair that turns around 180 degrees and eats you when you're not expecting it, Barry. What are the odds, man? I mean, this sounds like something that's so fantastical. It can't be real, but this is something that people are really scared of.
A reason that this also gave me interest is because back then at the same time in college, that's when I had learned about, as I've mentioned, I think I mentioned on the show before, the deer woman. And I heard two versions of the deer woman. One is that the tribes, in Salina there, they have a lot of the different tribes join for the powwows. And they were saying that these deer women would come with these dresses on, these ways that they wrap their hooves, and that they would start dancing around during the powwows and get to dancing so fast and jumping around that sometimes these things would come off their hooves and the dresses would come up and you could see their hooves, and then they jump away. I heard that several times from some of my Native American friends in my area. So that's something that caught my attention. And the other part of the deer woman was that, and Dr. Shaw from university that I was at, he was, he wasn't a Lakota. Can't remember which tribe he was now, but he had talked about the deer woman and that the deer women would be at the clubs. And sometimes one would go to a club and that they lure them in out of the club and then trample them.
Trample them?
Yeah. That was something he had said. So, and then it goes to this club type of a thing. It's very, very interesting, how much that comes up, anyway. So that's just a correlation I had got, something that happens like that in a club setting. And, it's very easy to seduce someone when you've got the alcohol, you've got the party vibe, you've got the strobe lights. That is a type of hypnotic. That puts a lot of people in alpha really quick if they're aware of it or not. So it is what it is,
It's all fun and games till the lights come on, right? After the club's closing down. You see who you really been dancing with. Ask me how I know. I'm just kidding. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Oh, well, I've been seeing videos on like Instagram and TikTok, of women who, it looks like it's women in like a village in, let's just say Africa somewhere. And they're sitting there like crying, and it looks like a witch doctor is like standing over her, or somebody, a preacher or a pastor or somebody. And they're doing like a ceremony over her as she's sitting there, and she has like deer legs coming out from under her dress while she's sitting on the ground. So that's got to be what you're talking about.
It's a woman sitting outside of these huts crying, kind of.
Yes.
That's supposed to be a bird person. That's supposed to be a bird woman. Yeah, they say supposed to be those are bird legs. Yeah,
I saw one with deer legs too, though, or goat legs.
At least the one I'm thinking of, it's this to where it was referred to as the bird tribes. And that this woman was turning, and she said to turn into a crow. And if they caught her, she got hung up on the barbed wire before transforming fully. And that's why she was laying like that. Yeah, so that this may be something different you're talking about, but that's what comes to mind when you say that. So
yeah.
Something I want to throw in real quick too about this Kishi. When looking into this, and that was back then, and looking into it now, the same thing surfaces, that it says that one is that the human side of this individual that's at the club, this good looking brother, is so charming and very, very, almost hypnotic in ways, but they are not mortal. And that's been said every time I read that, and that they walk beside man, but they are not mortal. And I find that very interesting. We start dealing with these beings that, and one of the things before you go into the data is that you kept picking up ancient, and that takes it back before even, and we talk about these type of experiments that happened back in old times. I think we're looking at one of them. These laboratories that existed thousands and thousands of years ago, if not millions.
If I was going to say millions.
Yeah, millions is better.
It sounds wild, right? But knowing what we're figuring out now through these targets, it's it goes way farther back than what we could even imagine, I think, at this point. I mean, okay, let's just start kind of getting into the data then, because it's really wild. Now actually, before we do that, let's show the audience some pictures. Okay. Let's go ahead and show the audience some pictures of what we're talking about with these beings. Okay. So this is, let's do the one where it's the nice looking Romeo here. So this is a guy, he looks like Prince Charming, but he's got a hyena hiding in his hair. Okay. So these are just artist renditions. Okay. Let's see. Here's another one here. This guy doesn't have hair except for the hyena's hair. And so, and the thing about it is it's described as having long hair, like dreadlocks covering hiding the hyena.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because when you start really getting into Black extraterrestrials, something that the community doesn't talk about hardly. You've got a faction that are dreadlocked, and a lot of them are female, some of them androgynous, but this comes up a lot, as well as all the way to how much that is represented in media as well. Those brothers that are like part hybrid, black praying mantis and other things. Even looking at the Predator on the movies, the Predator has the dreads too. Even though it's supposed to be for oxygen reasons, but also when looking at the Predator, it's actually insectoid. You would think it's lizard-like because
it is insectoid.
Hands, but look at its mouth. That's an insectoid mouth that opens like that.
An insect man. Absolutely. And here's another one. This looks kind of like a shaman type of thing going on, but with the spear here. And then this is the picture that I did put up on for the artwork, basically. Another piece of art. Okay, so this is the Kishi, you guys, and this is a hyena's mouth, y'all. So for y'all who've been following me for a long time, I did remote view the beasts of the LBL, okay, and the family that was murdered back in the 1980s, a mom, a dad, and a son and a daughter. And through my data, I was seeing what I saw when I remote viewed that was a hyena dog man. Okay. Now there is such thing as a hyena type dog man, and their mouths are huge. Okay. And they take a big old chunk out of whatever they're biting. Okay. And rip it to pieces.
That takes us into something that is the Werehyena, as it's called. And when you start looking up the Kishi, you'll come across that, the Werehyena. And how that's the thing in that area of Africa and even further that is very well known. And also about these hyenas that walk around in human skin looking like people. That is something that goes, yeah. And I find stuff like that interesting in concept,
Absolutely.
And hyenas, the way they actually eat and take their prey, consume, is kind of horrific in the way these things would do that, and it's described with these Kishi. So that's not,
Well, I already was prepared to talk about the werehyenas tonight. Okay, because we got werewolves. Why wouldn't we have a werehyena? You know what I mean? So, and I thought I printed out some information on that.
It's quite prominent there in South Africa and other parts of Africa. The werehyena much more than werewolves. It's werehyenas. That's something to take. I think definitely taken
into consideration for sure. Now, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Nail it.
No, okay. Y'all ready? Y'all ready for this? Okay. Okay, so when I first got this target, you guys, I was Barry. I was absolutely. I felt like I was out in the Southwest somewhere because I was seeing a lot of like it was very dry land. It looked like the desert kind of, and I was seeing mesas. Okay, like I'm team stump, so I'm assuming mesas are like old trees, that have been cut. But I was seeing something like a desert scene. It was barren. Like I actually wrote down barren, very mud, like dirt everywhere, mud colored. I was seeing like a lot of brown, a lot of dirt, and mountains and mesas is what I wrote down. And I wrote down mud fossils. Okay, so if y'all know what mud fossils are, okay,
that's interesting.
That's
I was going to
interesting.
say something. You kept messaging me over and over again. Mud fossils, mud fossils. That was interesting. So.
Yeah, well, I thought, well, maybe it's like a petrified giant or something because I didn't know. I didn't know what this was. I just had some numbers. Okay, so
Hello, Kira. Greetings, Kira. How you
yeah,
doing?
hey, Kira.
Hello to everyone out there that said hello. I didn't say hello to everybody, so greetings to everybody, and thank you for the welcome. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Oh, awesome. No, it's okay. I'm just reading some comments too. Oh my gosh, Bernard, that sounds crazy. He said he had a girlfriend with dreads. When she'd get upset, her eyes would change colors from brown to sort of greenish blue, like greenish brown. Ooh, interesting. That's interesting. She might have been a shapeshifter.
Well, when it comes to that, the black melanin dominant females from Andromeda, one section of Andromeda that come here, several contactees have reported are dreadlocked, but they're very big, like 7 feet tall. And they said they're the warriors that they're almost all female race, which is interesting. Wow. That's what Wonder Woman represents in that Amazonian island and everything she's on represents entertainment wise. When you see these dreadlocked women, Guinan on Star Trek, Whoopi Goldberg, that's another representation. Michonne, The Walking Dead, that's just walk around with the samurai sword, dreads.
Wow, interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, this is awesome. Okay, so I'm seeing mud fossils. Okay, but I'm seeing something that's like very dry, barren land. I thought it was a desert. I thought I was out in the Southwest, perhaps. I don't know. But I was seeing like plateaus, like on mesas and mountain ranges, kind of things, like something that you see out in the desert. Okay, so that's where I was. I actually wrote down Devil's Tower, if y'all know what the Devil's Tower is. Okay, but I was just seeing a whole lot of mud and dirt and stuff. Okay. A lot of barren land, dried mud, a crater, a lake. I was thinking I was out west. Southern. Okay, so I wrote down southern, which is interesting. Like the southwest too. And Barry, actually, where these things are found is in the southern part of Africa and in the southwestern area of Africa. Okay, so that's interesting. That's where these things are from, where they're seen the most. But I was picking up on mounds and the builders, like builders of mounds and stuff like that too. So I don't know if that has any kind of connection. This is my first target. Okay, I had 3 pages here. I was picking up on like burial mounds and stuff because I literally felt like I was out west, like in the Southwest United States. But I was talking about, I was feeling like a connectivity to the land, and I kept hearing begin again, start over, reintroduce, like something was being reintroduced, whatever that is. And I kept hearing, this is the truth. This is the truth. Whatever's coming out, this is the truth. But it's natural, and this is moving and it's flowing. Whatever this was whatever I was remote viewing was natural. Okay, so natural. I didn't think that was super on target for that one. That was my first target that I got. So of course you told me to go back and look at it again. Okay, so I think I was in the right area, but I just didn't exactly hone in on the target exactly. But I was there.
Yeah.
So
in all fairness, you have no idea what in the HE double hockey sticks this is. So
that's right. I had no clue.
But there are things there that are able to be targeted and zoomed in on. You're picking up.
Yes. I was picking up on the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So let's see. Put Bernard's comment up there. Okay. So I went back and I looked again. Okay. And I immediately picked up on a mammal. Okay. A mammal. I picked up on a creature. It was a mammal. Okay. And it was a living mammal. It was alive. It had rough skin, dark and very big. Okay, dark. And I was picking up on a lot of browns and stuff too. So I see him brown. Yeah, that third target, by the way, it's way more on target. We're gonna get to that in just a minute. But I picked up on something that was it had like very dried skin. I was also picking up on like a reptilian type being as well. So I picked up on a mammal, but I also was picking up on something that was kind of like a reptilian kind of. So that may have nothing to do with this target. But I picked up on caves. I was picking up on deep inside a cave and in the caverns. Okay. I was hearing this is a big secret, but it's being exposed now. Okay. And I kept picking up on something being from a long time ago. This is very old. Okay. Even back into the dinosaur era. That was in another target. It was like dinosaur era. So I was picking up, this comes from a long time ago.
Well, I think that's important. That's very important.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I was also picking up on like on paleontologist too. Okay. They have something that's significant to this target. In the landscape, whatever that landscape was I was looking at. And I kept hearing formidable. A formidable opponent is what I heard. A formidable opponent. I was picking up on war, fighting and war. A humanoid, a bipedal humanoid is what I wrote down. I was picking up on like a caveman type thing too, because I was picking up that whatever this is lives in caves or it hides in the caves. And there are petroglyphs that depict whatever this was I was looking at. Okay. That there are petroglyphs that will tell the story and they've been covered up. That was my target right there.
Very good.
That was the second one.
That's good. That's great data.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess we'll go to the third one. Are y'all ready for the third one already? So that was easy. Okay, and so then I went to. You told me to go at it one more time, and I was like, Barry, I'm so tired, but I'll do it. Okay, so I did one more.
And specifically, I also want to say an ad before you get going is the mammal thing and the very key things you keyed in on that paper as I'm looking at it. Zoom in on these because you were nailing it. Okay. So that's why it was important, even if you did it the next day. But I mean, you were right there on it without knowing what it is, but nailing it. And so it was a matter of just, yeah. So.
Okay. Well, heck yeah. Okay. So I went to the third one and then I immediately picked up on long hair. Okay. I was seeing something it had long hair. It was very large, squirrely. I picked up on that was some of my sensory data. I was like, something that was squirrely and it was hiding, very dark, something that liked to roam around at nighttime and it was hiding in the shadows. Okay. So, ducking in and out, I picked up on like a skinwalker. Okay. So I was picking up on a shapeshifter or a skinwalker. That's what my data was, shape-shifting or a shapeshifter or a skinwalker. Very outlandish, something that was outlandish. It was in the shadows. It hides in the shadows. It takes leaps and bounds. And yeah, I mean, there's some more data. That's the gist of it. If you guys want to see the rest of my data, you can join my Patreon or whatever. I gave most of my data out there too. That's most of it tonight. But I was picking up on something with long hair that hides in the shadows and it was outlandish. But I picked up on a shapeshifter.
You know, I think in terms of that, it might be because there's some reports that it twists its neck around, and there are other reports that, like she had told me, that sometimes some of them would have like almost these backpacks or something that seemed like that, but they had arms that were on the back. So when they would attack, they'd turn around different. So I heard a few different types of reports about these things, you know. But with that one too, I think also perhaps like kind of, you remember American Werewolf in London when he first started shifting, his nose expanded.
Yes.
I wonder if maybe when they start actually about to attack, like any animal that would you know, increase its muzzle, is that what they do and does it expand? You know what I mean? Or something like that. Yes. Once it's revealed. It's a, you know, very frightening thought nonetheless. And what you picked up about it being ancient, goes right along with what I've heard, both from her and then researching it after, is that these things have been around like as long as man, longer. And in that way, they walk beside man. And it's some of these things, we start coming to these things and these creatures that are imprinted within the energy field of the earth and start manifesting. And, does that include Sasquatch and these other things, a portion of them, and several other cryptids that start manifesting right now, not just because the dimensions are getting closer, but because our consciousness is actually evolving and that they're manifesting with us, and they've always been there anyway. It's very interesting when you start thinking about that and what's imprinted and how much of this phenomenon is earth imprinted and echoes. And once it gets within, like Rupert Sheldrake calls it, the morphogenic field of humanity, it activates and manifests. It's worthy food for thought.
That is. And, so the story that you heard about the lady worried about going to the clubs at night, that worried that she was going to be taken by go home with a Kishi. Okay. I actually talked to my good friend, Dennis Carroll, you guys. So Dennis Carroll, he's got his own shows now. Okay. By the way, he had a live show last night. And so Dennis is a good friend of the show. And he sent me a message today when he saw that I was going to be doing a show about this. And he actually was contacted by a woman who was afraid that her boyfriend was one of these things. Okay. And she lived down in South Africa or Southern Africa as well. And he said that these things are definitely demons. And this woman had a serious fear of this man. She really thought that she was dating a Kishi. Okay. And so this is, he said the only way to kill these things is with a blessed weapon. And usually that would be a knife or a spear, something with a blade. And it has to be blessed because it's hard to kill them, apparently. Which would be like a Skinwalker, by the way.
Do you need holy water too? Need holy water too?
I don't know. Well, it's like a Skinwalker kind of. I mean, that's part of the way to get rid of a Skinwalker.
That's interesting. I don't know. It just sounds a little theatrical to me, but it could be true.
I believe it. Coming from a cryptid standpoint,
individuals who have tried to fight these things, nearly impossible. They rip you apart.
It's kind of like a werewolf would do the same. Well, or a hyena. Well, they are a hyena. And if they can twist their head 180 degrees, when I was a kid, I had a doll, and it was called Double Trouble, and that was part of the She-Ra action figures, y'all. Okay, if y'all remember She-Ra, she was like the sister or girlfriend or something to He-Man. Okay, and I was always the girl. I was always the kid that liked the villains, right? Like with Jim and the Misfits, I liked the Misfits. Okay, with She-Ra, I liked all the bad people. I liked all the bad ones, because I could identify with both sides, right? The good and the bad. And so I liked being the bad ones. And so Double Trouble was on the bad side. And she had a head that you could twist it. She was either smiling or she was angry, and you could just twist her little head around, and it came around through the helmet. You could change her expression because she went from happy to sad. And this thing kind of reminded me of Double Trouble from She-Ra.
I have a question.
What's that?
When you picked up Reptilian, do you think it's possible that reptilians made this thing?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a good question. Could be. I mean, there's a reason that reptilians came up in the data. I just don't know what that reason is. Or it could just be that I just wrote it down because it was analytic overlay. So that doesn't mean it was actually not part of my sensory data. That was me trying to make sense of what I was seeing. So I don't know. I didn't actually get that. I mean, I didn't get like why reptilian was there. I just picked up on reptilian, and that was around the time that I was getting the data for the caves and the caverns and living in cave systems and things like that. Now, are there a lot of cave systems in Africa? I would assume so.
I'm sure. Yeah, all over the world, there especially. I'm sure, and that is interesting. You kept picking that up. So whether is that their habitat, or is that where they just seek refuge, or is it one of these ancient labs down there? They keep these things caged up. It's just it's endless. And this thing, but like I said, this thing is described as, I agree with where it said demonic. That's what they're basically described as. They're walking alongside man always and using us predatorily, you know? And,
Yeah.
so much so that the cunning part of this other side, the human face, is so cunning, so charming, so almost hypnotic that people think that they got to be somehow related to humanity, but they're not. And in that way, I
Right.
got that these are immortal beings too. And you're kind of saying that too, which is even more creepy, but it is what it is, right?
Well, I mean, they've been here for a very long time. I'm not going to say from the very beginning of time, but maybe beginning of mankind. Okay, since humans started showing up on the planet, right? In some way, and I was picking up on cavemen too, Barry. So Neanderthal type stuff. I mean, this is a weird one. This is a super weird cryptid.
Do you mean they were feeding on Neanderthal, or do you mean that they're part Neanderthal? What do you mean?
No, I picked up on cavemen. That was part of my data. Like they were.
Cavemen.
I don't know if. Yeah, I picked up on cavemen.
Or maybe the cavemen were aware of them. Oh, that's very interesting.
Could be.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Absolutely. Now, do these things run in packs or are they lone wolves? What do you think, Barry?
What I've heard is always individually, that they're,
Okay.
they seem like they're always one solitary, the way they encounter people. I didn't read any research either that said that them being seen like multiples of them or anything. So it's interesting.
Okay.
Interesting how some of these more demonic ones, like even the, what is it? I don't want to say Yahweh, the Gugwi. They seem, only recently have I heard about them hunting in packs. But before that, they were always seemed to be solitary.
Wow.
I wonder why that is. Are they in the cages solitarily?
Well, I mean, okay, so if we have, like, let's just say our government, we have agencies here that are creating dogmen and even hyena type dogmen. Okay. Who's to say there aren't programs in Africa where they're creating those as well? And animals like that, like hybrids. And just like the remote viewing data that I got out of the giant of Kandahar, where the military went in to obtain a sample of DNA of these Nephilim or giants, whatever these giants are, the giant that they encountered and they killed in that cave after it killed a bunch of our people too. Who's to say that they have not been taken and cloned, right? And what if they got an army of Kishi down in Africa? That would be scary.
If you listen to what Credo Mutua was telling David Icke, whatever his last name is, but what he was saying about he talked about certain mountain, maybe one or two in Africa, that these mountains where these Chitalu, these reptilians, really it's like their base almost. And it's known by one of the deals, no one goes there near these mountains because the odds of encountering one of these reptilians and they eat people is very, very large. And that's one of the it's one of the first ones he did with David Icke. I'm sure it's still on YouTube actually. He's sitting there, he talks all about it. He goes into the different types of reptilian, and the ones I'm talking about, the Chitalu, he was saying the ones that have the spikes on their head like Darth Maul in Star Wars. He said those look very much like Darth Maul. And that's just fascinating, how much stuff is hitting. And when dealing with reptilians, there we have a connection with some parts of Africa there through Credo Mutua. So this, I don't think you're so far off.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, there's actually another type of creature that's in India. Okay. And it's a demonic creature. Okay. Because these things are actually, the Kishi are considered to be demonic, right? And like demons. Now, I did pick up on Skinwalker or shapeshifter type being. Demon is all about your perception, I guess, in a lot of ways too, being demonic. But okay, so Dennis Carroll, he also sent me a little tidbit of information. He was talking about what is called the Rakshasa out of India. Are you familiar with those, Barry?
A little.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm close to attacking somebody in the chat. They're talking trash.
No,
I'm about
don't
to
do
tear
that.
them up.
Please,
But I'm not going to do. I'm not
don't.
going to do it because I'm not going to waste
Please don't
time
do
on the
that.
fool.
Let's keep it.
Well,
Let's keep it love
I've been
and
having a
light.
problem with trolls lately, and they like to attack on other people's platforms. So anyway, please keep going. I will not look at the chat again because I want to roast this person up. I think they're a punk.
Okay, please
I'm
don't.
going to leave it alone. I'm going to leave it alone.
We're having a good time tonight. Let's keep it light. Okay.
I keep it real though. You know that, Jessica. I keep it real, and I back down from no one.
Okay, so this is what the Indian same demonic thing looks like. Okay. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is called the let's see, the Rakshasa. Okay, and this is out of India, and I believe it's supposed to be a female. Actually, it looks like a male because he's got a mustache right there. Okay, but it's a type of demon or a goblin, and they have the power to change shape, and it will appear as animals, as monsters, and in some cases a female demon, which could be, what is that, a succubus, Barry? Is that what that's called?
Incubus and succubus.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Okay, but this is something that's very similar to what we're talking about with the Kishi. Okay, and so of course I had to look this up. I figured maybe you had done a video on this or something. I didn't know if you were familiar with it, and I think they take a lot of different forms. As a matter of fact, there's some forms that are like tigers and different animals and stuff like that. But it's basically the same demon in different forms, in different shapes. That one looks like a wolf, perhaps, or a badger or something.
Maybe a tiger.
Yeah, but they say that not all of them are equally as evil, but some of them are more evil than others. Okay, and demonic, and but I don't see them changing their face like from the front to the back, just like the Kishi does. Yeah. All right, what do you think about those, Barry?
I don't know. It goes into just another one of these malevolent cryptids, you know. I recently, I've always been slightly interested also in like the Hydra and some of the Nagas and things that have been in India also. I think that probably isn't talked about enough either. So I don't know. I don't know.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Aussie Sue, for that super chat. That's very sweet of you. I appreciate that. Yes, these blind targets are awesome. Yeah, these are cool. I didn't do my research too much on the Rakash, whatever these things are called, y'all. I didn't, because I just got this information right before we went live tonight from Dennis. So, but yeah, this is, I figured it had something to do, and according to what Dennis said, it had something to do with what we're talking about tonight. And I was hoping that Barry might know.
There. Well, I've heard of Rikishi, but it's because it looks like Rikishi, I think, something similar to that.
Rakashasha. I don't know.
Yeah,
I can't pronounce it.
Before, but I'm not an expert on that one, so I can't go. I'm not going to speak out of my league there, But about the Kishu, I am aware of though.
Okay. Well, okay. So these the Kishi, all right, Barry, they remind me very much of the dogmen. Okay. And when I remote viewed the dogmen at the LBL, they look very much like hyena dogmen. Okay, the hyena type. The two that I saw looked like hyenas. Okay, they didn't look like regular German Shepherd type dogmen. Okay, and so it reminds, and my data was saying that they were going for the adrenalized blood, if y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay, they were going for the blood, and so that means that they were actually intent on scaring the people before they killed them and ate them. Okay, so that is very much like the Kishi, in my opinion, because it says specifically, it is said that Kishi will terrorize its victims before eating them. Okay, so could
after being all charming and doing all that, did they just turn?
Yeah, well, it's like a dog man, right?
Or a Gemini? No, I'm just kidding.
Or Gemini. I am a Gemini. Hey, you're a Gemini too. Come on, right? We got a bunch of Gemini.
But yeah, that is, but that is something there, and then that's part of that thing. Whenever dealing with whether it's vampirism or these other beings, they seem to have this type of hypnotic effect, putting people into trance and alpha, and that's according with this said about the Kishi quite a bit. They're very, very charming. They're supposed to be until they charm and then start doing everything, and it's such a vicious attack that there's almost impossible to get away from it. So that which implies something else with the cryptids superhuman strength.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, most cryptids have superhuman strength, though. The ones that we've looked into, but they're not human. So, but it's like human, like part man, part something like this. So, but it seems like the strength would take on the characteristics of being that animal, right? So it's like human, but it has the strength of a hyena. Its mouth is strong like a hyena. So that's how it's tearing people apart.
And
Wow,
hyenas are
interesting stuff.
very cunning, and they have what's considered amount of cowardice that is backed up by supreme hunter type of predatorial instincts. So, that's something you're saying. They're hiding in the shadows. And it's very easy to go to a club or something, stand in the shadows and observe whoever,
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah. So how can we prevent from getting caught up with a Kishi? What do you think, Barry? Watch out for the smooth talking, good looking fellas at the club, or what?
See your brother at this club and tell if you're a woman, tell her to turn around and spread the dreadlocks behind the back of their head.
My gosh.
I guess.
Oh my gosh.
Look,
Look,
I
gotta do it.
there, Look to see if they have a hunchback. Are they hunchback? You look for all those type of things, I would say.
I'd be like, I gotta do a thorough investigation of the back of your head before I will hang out with you. I'm sorry. Yes.
I think it also goes back to maybe don't go to these places alone.
Okay.
It's kind of like the same work you're doing in the field. Don't go to these places alone. I mean, not just do we have the Kishi in these places, we have those human predators too, which are maybe as fierce or worse. So
yes. Okay. Yeah. We have to be on the lookout, right? And make sure that we go with our gut when it comes to listen to your intuition. If something feels off, it's off. Okay. And yeah, don't be scared to rub your finger through somebody's hair, y'all. Okay. I'm just saying. Just don't. Make sure there's no hanging. You might come back without a finger, but at least you'll run away with your life. Do you know what I mean?
Make sure you do it in the public place at the bar while you're standing at the bar, or tell them, hey, let me see the back of your scalp, They won't show you. There's an issue.
Right. Randy has a good question. He says, "How do they get in the club with no ID?" Well, I would assume that they've got because they live life as a human, right, Barry? So they're living as a normal everyday human. You'd never know the difference.
And yeah, exactly. And who's to say that they don't? And they don't have access to these type of things. It's it's not that hard to go through and con people.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's not a very hard one at all. You know what I mean? You can probably get in. How many times when you used to party, how many times you get into a club with no ID? I did it all the time. You know what I mean? It's not that hard.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I think it stems more. Don't leave with one of these individuals, or just leave with somebody you don't know. Especially if you're a woman.
Absolutely.
That's who they're prey. These things prey on women.
I think it'd be really hard to not see a hyena on the back of a man's head, though. That's just me personally. I don't know. Unless they got a bunch of hair and a big old hat on.
Well, I don't know. You ever really seen anybody really thick dreads? It wouldn't be all that much to hide if you're able to retract the muzzle at all. I think it wouldn't be that hard to hide.
Shugging it down with cornbread ass. So they are spiritual and possess people to attract them into a position to attack them. Do you think they possess people or like hypnotize them, Barry? Or are they just charming?
I think it's charm and then putting people in alpha state. That already happens almost natural, like somewhere like a club, anywhere. Because like I said, you got the strobe lights and things. And I'll be honest, it's very easy to put people into alpha. It's simple, okay? If you have a knowledge of that at all. And part of that
people what you mean by that.
It's hypnosis, auto-suggestion, okay? You can give somebody auto-suggestion, especially visualization, that will put them into alpha very quickly. And these are things that are known that every time you deal with these cryptids, the ones that are attacking people, they're reported to do that. And that's something when dealing with them. I think that the charm and the suggestion and the way that they look, okay, is enough to put someone in that type of alpha and to lower their guards where they leave with this individual, whatever, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so basically what you're saying too is like this is not some sort of creature that's just like walking around the street that's going to just come out and attack. Like this is actually a human, something pretending to be just plain human that will lure you in, and then it will eventually kill you. Either kill you right away, or it will marry you, have a baby with you, and then it'll kill you. And so only women need to worry about it.
I've heard that several times too, that they impregnate and then murder and then raise those to be one too. Yeah. So, you know, it keeps going and going, and that goes into the reproductive processes of these creatures. So it shows that they would be capable of reproducing with man if those stories are true, you know?
Yeah.
So there's got to be some type of human genome in there, along with whatever else chimera stuff is mixed in there. Who knows? Hyena, reptilian. Oh.
Yeah, that's interesting because I did have the reptilian in the data, but yeah, I was just picking up on a shapeshifter. So basically, this is a real thing, right, Barry? I mean, I came up with data on this. I would not have come up with data if this wasn't a real creature.
You know, and honestly, that's the first thing I wanted to see. Was it real? What she's saying real are the legends real? That's what I wanted to know, and I knew you would find out immediately. You know, if it was not even a real target. So. But I
wouldn't have come up with data on it if it wasn't. And the data that I got was pretty much in line with what this thing is rumored to be, which is pretty amazing to me.
You know, and this taking us into the legends of, again, what we talked about, the Werehyena, how some of them are said to be always almost just these hyenas that are wearing human skin disguising themselves. You know, odd as it is, that takes me back to that old show, Werewolf, KSAS 24. When they first came out, there was a show called Werewolf on there. And the guy that was the rifleman, Chuck Connors, played the bad guy on there. And he was this werewolf that would go like this and take his face off and transform then. And at one point, just before they killed him, he was saying, you know, you're not really the man who turns into the wolf. You're the wolf running around pretending to be a man. He's like, that's right, I'm the wolf. I'm supreme. And, you know, but it's interesting when looking at that and this same concept of these devils wearing human skin, you know, in human form. It's terrible. And it comes back down to the blood and them needing that A word you talked about. How much does that have to do with the shape-shifting ability? How much does that have to do with that? How much does that have to do with their ability to manifest and unmanifest?
That's right. Well, and that gives a whole other like supernatural aspect to it. But like it seems as though through my data, these are actual 3D blood, flesh and bone type of creatures that appear to be human. They just have a hyena on the back of their head. Okay. And they're savage. Like they will rip you to shreds, and they only go after women. I find that odd too. But,
you know, so you think that makes sense. I got you. So you think that they're manifested at all times. That makes sense too, because they reproduce.
Because they're reproduced, and the children. That's why they don't immediately kill some of these women. They actually reproduce with them. They marry them. They have a child with them, and that's how they continue their lineage, right? And they. As soon as a woman has a baby, they tear her to shreds, and they take the baby and go off with the child and teach the child to be a flesh eater.
Another question. You mentioned several times the caves. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that they're also inner earth creatures, that they're using the caves for that?
I was picking up that something, whatever they are, is living in the caves. Yeah. I picked up on cave dwellers, cavemen is what I was picking up on. In more than one of my targets, one of these targets. I mean, I did the most recent ones. I did three targets for that one, 3 different targets for those coordinates. Yeah. So definitely a cave connection for sure. Yeah. I mean, is that something that you had heard before I remote viewed this? I mean, because I know that you have your list of everything that you're kind of looking for when I remote view, and you probably go down and you check everything off the list, or if I don't hit it, you're like, go back and look deeper before you tell me.
To be honest, I was wondering what their origin is, because I just knew that they're reported going back so far, and you confirmed that, like ancient almost. I mean, the reports of them were going back, way back. So that was what I was also curious. What was their origin? So that was kind of part of the target too, in a way. But you also got you got the area that they're seen in a lot, and then you've got the caves, and that's, I think, somewhat, to me, perhaps saying that they have underground connection, or had come from there initially. Yeah. And why not? I mean, it seems like everything else almost does. So why not?
Exactly.
That's where all the true genetic splicing goes down, whether if it's 2023 or apparently 66 million years ago. That's where a lot of that stuff is going on, is in these cataclysms, these chasms underneath the earth.
Yeah. I didn't pick up on any kind of like extraterrestrial data at all. It was all pretty much like of the earth from here, living in caves. I was picking up on mud fossils. Okay. But what are the mud fossils, right? Are you familiar with mud fossils, Barry? Because that was pretty prevalent. That was prevalent in my data.
A little bit. I mean, you've got so many different things, just what that kind of oddly brings to my mind is about maybe some of the catastrophes that happened before that, like the great floods. And, I don't want to get too weird with this, but, looking at like, there's people like Randall Carlson and people like that, and even Graham Hancock, that have talked about this a lot as terms of the cataclysms that happened before that really eradicated a lot of things you'd see in the mud fossils. A lot of things like these crinoids and a lot of these giant creatures that were around that just suddenly got wiped out. And what happened is you have actually this meteor, that comes in, but really where it hit is off. This has been scientifically proven now, off Greenland, off what's called the Hiawatha ice shelf and the Hiawatha crater. And what that is, that thing came down and hit. And when it hit the ice shelf, it set up these huge pieces of ice too. That went up our atmosphere, some melted, came down, and they landed certain places. Like even the bay in, Lake Huron. There's actually a crater there. There's another one in Lake Ontario, another crater. They say these are these ice craters that happen when these ice things hit, and that's what actually caused the ice age to a degree, and why we have some of these creatures that were actually eradicated. So in some ways, the Noah's flood thing can be scientifically proven. We're dealing with something that when that thing hit, within like one day, the sea level rose like 60 feet. And then within, I think, the next month, like 300 feet on top of that. We're talking about something that's never been seen before. So when dealing with these Kishi, was this something that survived that? Was around before that? And at that point right there, when you would get pummeled by all those ice and all that stuff going on, you would have to have cave and underground refuge to survive. So is that what we're dealing with here? Yeah. Food for thought only, okay?
It's interesting that you said the craters and the lakes, because that was all in my data, like the stuff you were just talking about just then, with the mud floods. Yeah, with mud. I said I got mud flood. I know. Listen, mud flood is like a very controversial subject for some reason. Even bringing up the idea of having mud floods, people are not super open to it. They're like, that's a conspiracy theory. But I'm open to everything.
What I just quoted is not conspiracy theory. It's scientific proof. They've proven that. They've proven where that crater actually hit in Greenland. What I'm talking about, anyone could look that up. The Hiawatha crater, and what that's on the Hiawatha ice shelf. They're saying that's where that meteor hit. That meteor that was the first one, probably about 2 miles wide. It hit there, and that's the first part of the cataclysm. Then you have the other ice pieces that it threw off that created these holes I just talked about, like in Lake Huron and Ontario. And you've got other meteors that came. It was a swarm that came, others that hit. So this wasn't just a total overnight thing when it kind of was. You had 60 feet in raising of sea level in one day. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And then 300 feet in the following month. That's
Great.
tremendous. It seems how some of the valleys here have gotten carved. The valleys we see, it's really something else going on. And I think it needs to be really acknowledged. And even tying that into our friend, was it Jock Doubleday? What he's saying about some of the ways that this place is almost engineered in a terraforming type of way. These are all things to think about, Food for thought again. I don't want to piss people off, but that science sometimes is reliable. Not always, but sometimes,
It is. Okay. Sweet Pea has an interesting question. Why can't they breed with each other? Well, aren't they all men? They're all males, right?
That's what I've got. Yeah. All phallus. pretty
So
hard.
I guess they're all, you can't breed with another man, just the way nature works.
I've never heard of a female Kishi. I've never heard of that before. So good point though, really good point.
Yeah. Okay. We've got a lot of questions in the chat. Actually, Richard's asking about me about I'm asking about the data. What it's composed of. That's my sensory data. It's called remote viewing. Okay, so it'd take me a while to explain all this right now on air, but just look up remote viewing online. It's just the process. It's all the information that I'm pulling basically out of the matrix with these coordinates that I'm given for these blind targets. The data is any kind of information that comes through on those coordinate numbers. So that's what data is in a nutshell. Okay.
And
so
it seems like it's almost mathematical in some ways too. When I did that workshop with Princess Janae from Farsight, the system she was using seemed like was quite mathematical to a degree. It seemed like with the numbers, just the way that the information is classified, the classifications just seem like that to me to a degree. I could be off.
Yes. Bat crazy alien. I can't say those cuss words, y'all. I'll try not to cuss on air. Okay. But yeah, I think that they could be part of a genetic experiment too, right? I think a lot of these cryptids could be partly genetic experiments, or they just could be like where they're clones, or they've manipulated, where they've taken some of their DNA and they're splicing it into other stuff. All these hybrids, there's no telling.
These are recorded going back in ancient though. Okay. They're
ancient.
So it would be something right now, current humanity or current dark forces would just be picking up where the others left off. Okay. Excuse me. I'm getting continuing process. So they're just continuing on with what's already been done. It's a whole thing of creating monstrosities.
Yeah, absolutely. Kira asks, could it be a being created by time warping and crossing dimensions too? That's an interesting question, Barry.
Possibly. I think when dealing with manifested beings, that's what they're doing quite a bit. It's time warping. That goes into quantum physics. Ron Moorhead's old quantum Bigfoot thing. He talks about that quite a bit. So I'd say yes. And I think when dealing with that also, we've got these presences which we would call cryptid, that are able to warp and cross the dimensions just because their imprint is on the earth. You know what I mean? Similar to what I was listening to that gentleman the other day you were interviewing, talking about the battlefield. Mm-hmm. And to me, what he was talking about, he was describing phantoms that are using the poltergeist energy, that psychokinetic energy, to be even more third dimensional. And it's also dealing with, once again, trauma. There was a bunch of bloodshed on that land. And the blood, the manifestation.
Yeah. That's the blood has a lot to do with this stuff, Barry. It's like an ongoing theme with a lot of these cryptids, and a lot of the things that we look into is blood. It's a little scary.
That's too bad. You remember when it was easier when I was a kid, it was easier. The only things that wanted blood was like Bela Lugosi and Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman. That was about it. It wasn't, you had no idea what that was really leading to.
Yeah. Who'd have thought? All these movies we watched when we were kids, like the werewolves, even Michael Jackson in Thriller. What was he? He was, I want to say he was a werewolf, but he looked more like a cat, man.
He's a cat.
Right? It's like, who would have thought? Like these characters could potentially have been real, you know? And I think they are real. A lot of them are based on real creatures.
Where they come from in the mind of man, you know. It's
the mind of man. I think they're here. Some of them. I mean, werewolves, dogmen. I've never seen one. I've seen Bigfoot.
I think I mentioned this before, but you know, that movie that traumatized me as a kid with the Dr. Pepper guy turned into werewolf, American Werewolf in London. You remember when he was like in the hospital still? He was having these visions like he's at home with his parents. They're eating pizza or something, and suddenly these werewolf soldiers bust in, and they look like almost Nazis and blow everybody away with these machine guns. And, you know, but that there is knowing now what we know about some of these projects. That's not even far off, is it? And you think of where the hell did that mindset even come from? Where was that given to the individual that wrote that?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
that's just it's very frightful, and I'm hoping that's what's going on now with this shift, is that these things are being revealed, the consciousness is raising, and that this will no longer be the place that is like that. You've just got these creatures running around in the forest hunting people down. It's been released by both military and then also dark forces that are with them, and I mean all this crap going on, all this hunting of people. This false visions, this targeting individuals that are gifted. You know, when dealing with those type of devices like that voice of God technology and all these things that are putting voices in people's heads and hacking people's minds, the hacking of the human brain. You know, when actually dealing with that, you know, it's they have to test that technology. They have to have certain populations. You know, they're not going to do it. It's not going to be a controlled test at all, scientifically. So what did they do? They targeted the homeless people and targeted the prison people. And how many of them are hearing voices? These Manchurian candidates. And these people are doing these mass shootings everywhere. A lot of them saying things like, I'm hearing these voices. How much of that is just biochemical, neurochemical problems opposed to something that's like a long-range acoustic weaponry or something like that? This needs to really be evaluated, because I tell you, another population they've targeted outside of the homeless and outside of the prison population are psychics and contactees and mediums. A lot of people that we know are getting bombarded by this stuff, enough to where that and the caricature and the auto-suggestion of negative encounters, which do happen, that along with this frequency they're hitting people with, along with that thing we come through that you picked up on when you remote viewed those bases outside of Jupiter on the trans-Neptunian objects, you know, all this is connected. I always wondered what the next phase of it was once we come through that and those frequencies, what they're doing here to enhance it. I know now. And it's a shame because those beings that are coming from the divine field and higher vibrations can't get through because this crap going on here, these frequencies, our subconscious, all this auto-suggestion, the morphogenic field down here, it's crap.
Yeah, there's a lot going on for sure. And so Ace in the chat is asking, is it possible that the cryptids we're seeing are part human and alien hybrids, maybe started millions of years ago in other galaxies and just started like coming to our planet? And yeah, that is possible. I mean, I've heard stories, especially from like Jody Cook with the North American Dogman Project. He came on my show and was talking about having races of people talking about races of dogmen, extraterrestrials coming here to our planet and crashing in their spaceships. And we have people like, I think it was Tony Rodriguez was telling us about dogmen being shipped on other planets and things like that. So, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Some of them could be.
In 2019, when that questionable whistleblower was talking me to death, that's one thing I asked about. What do you know about dogmen? And they had said that they were intergalactic traders of body parts, intergalactic body part traders.
Oh my gosh. Do you know what that just reminds me of? when I remote viewed old green eyes, do you remember what my data said? That it was some sort of body part trafficking creature. Oh my gosh, I never heard that before, Barry. You didn't tell
Yeah,
me that.
they told me that several times. That's what they were. And
That
they
is
were on the
that's
galactic
what.
level throughout this galactic. They specialize in body parts from several different races.
Okay, well, that's interesting because my data for the old green eyes, whatever this creature was up at that Chickamauga battlefield, it was taking body parts and it was doing some sort of off-planet body part trading. That was in my data, and I was thinking, God, that sounds so weird. How am I going to tell the audience that? Okay, just like with most of this data, I'm doing these targets, and I'm like, how am I going to convey this to my audience that this is not all crazy? It is crazy. It's all crazy.
But
But it's just part of
also,
the data.
but that chimes in with this whole thing that is this slave trade that's going on in the Milky Way. This is a Milky
Yes.
Way problem, big time. The slave trade. Tony's talked about it.
That's right.
It's that guy. Bill Thomason, I think was his name, on Earth Files. He talked about it too, and then that's when he started going. And that way, you have to really focus on extra galactic communication as well, and those that are coming here from other galaxies that don't specialize in slavery. You know what I mean? And there's a lot coming here. There's a lot going on here. And I think we need to really open our eyes to the different beings that are here. There are thousands, if not more, of different races that are coming here all the time. People that are going through like what I went through. How come I'm not seeing on TV the beings that I saw or I interacted with? I was in physical presence of some of these beings. How come I'm not seeing other people talking about it? You know what? It's so vast that it's way beyond what we're seeing in the media.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's stuff that people can't even wrap our heads around at all. It's really hard for us with our little. Well, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but my little human mind has a hard time wrapping my head around it. Okay, and to grasp the enormous, vastness, like you said, of what's really going on out there. Like, what is really going on? I mean, all this data. Like, how am I coming up with data like intergalactic body part trading with old green eyes on their Civil War battlefield, and then you're just now telling us about this intergalactic body part trading stuff that's going on? I didn't just come up with that. That's written down in my data. I can go back and reference it and show you exactly where it's written on my data about that for old green eyes.
Oh, I believe you. I remember.
I
didn't do very good with the old green eyes subject.
Yeah, that was a rough one.
And I'm gonna tell you what I've told you many times. I'm gonna sound repetitive. I'm sorry, but I believe you definitely, but I think it pretty much sucks. I think it sucks. Okay,
I know, but you know what? We got to get the information out there, and because it is what it is. I'm on my 100 is what it is today.
Talking while you're sucking on a lemon. Anyway, but
it's okay. At least we're still talking about it, though.
This question right here from Triple OG. That's a good question.
Smooth criminal. What's up?
On my YouTube channel, I've got a video that is entitled the Midwayers, and that's a concept that's given in the Uranta book when they talk about like the first beings that were coming here to help, like the planetary prince that they called it, with his non-corporeal staff, and how they started interacting with like earth angels and earth light beings and things that were already here, and how they started producing non-corporeal offspring. And they called them midwayers, primary midwayers and secondary midwayers. And the secondary midwayers are quoted in that book as being very much what we would be calling jinn and beings like that are able to be, they were able to manifest to be almost physical at times, but they were also non-corporeal. These secondary midwayers. On my YouTube channel, there's if you go to the book reviews, there's one on there saying the primary midwayers, the midwayers, and the Uranta book. Just I think it's very interesting when they describe this classification of non-physicals that are Earth citizens as much as humanity. That's what they say in that book. Good food for thought. Great question too.
Yeah, great question. Okay, so let's see. I don't know if these are coming up. Ew. Sweet Pea has a good comment too, but I don't know if I should put that up. It's talking about meat. Okay, I'll bring it up. escape. Okay, wait. These comments are moving really fast, so I meant to click on another one, but we'll get this one too. Whiskey blower claim to escape slave camp and underground base on the moon. Okay, I'm not sure what that is. I'm sorry.
I don't know who that is, but I'll tell you that there again, that I think is an example of people being exposed to this technology. That is this technology that puts them in a hive mind, and that they believe that they're actually going through these, and it would be for every reason would appear to be real to the experiencer, definitely. But that's a technology they're using, that they're actually dosing some type of directed energy weapon that's very real. The acoustic long range delivery, and also what's called the spotlight. Okay, the auditorial spotlight, the way that can be, look these things up. All right, and how they can actually isolate that and put not just voices in people's head, but also tap into people's brain work, into the cortex, and actually start affecting your dreams. Kind of like that. Remember that old movie, one of my favorites, Dreamscape, with Dennis Quaid and Max von Sydow. He did that right after Flash Gordon, I believe. But anyway, he was the psychic that was actually able to go into people's dreams. And at first they had a technology that was helping him do it, but then he started being able to do it without. And when you start looking at the story of Ingo Swann, I think that was supposed to be about him, in my opinion.
Oh, wow.
He said he did a lot of that work.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Yeah. I have that book, Penetration. My mother ordered that book, and I have it. I haven't had time to read it yet. I've been so busy. But
check it out.
That's on my list. Yeah. That's about
him
remote viewing the moon. And y'all know how sensitive that subject is when it comes over to my channel.
You know, when he tells his story about what he saw when he remote viewed the moon, and the way he described it and how he thought he was off and viewing somewhere like in Nevada, somewhere dusty, it was so much like what you kind of went through when you were doing TRAPPIST-1. You didn't even know what the heck that was. That was a blind target. When you started describing the high rises and all the stuff there, I was like, whoa. I mean, that's quite similar. I was like having flashbacks of reading Penetration when you were doing that. Pretty cool, Jessica. Pretty cool.
Yeah, this is always fun. I love remote viewing.
You can't fake that stuff. You can't fake it.
No.
You know?
I can't. And especially, I mean, just getting a set of numbers and then getting all this data and being pretty on target with this one from tonight. I mean, this has been a really interesting target. I want to say it was really fun, but it's fun for me, but it's not fun for the victims. Let's just put it that way. It's really kind of sad. Now, are there any actual reports of people being killed by these things? Like it was in the news ever, Barry, or are these just legends that you hear?
Not that I've seen, but I haven't really researched that part of it because I get too tripped out on David Paulides and all the missing stuff he does. You know what I mean? So it's and which is really rather consuming, honestly. In a good, I mean, that's not a good thing, but in a way, it's very informative. You know.
Yes. Well, I've been seeing a whole lot more. People send me videos every day of people coming out talking about how there are portals in the national parks and warning people not to go and take their kids there and stuff like that. And I've never told people don't take your kids to the national parks. That's not my thing. But there's a lot of people coming forward right now talking about the dangers of going into the parks and how you walk into different dimensions there and things like that. And, my team did document that portal. So
I believe it. You know, somewhere that I've heard has got portals all around it and it's got high Bigfoot activity. Mm-hmm. It's a place in, was it Silver Springs, Missouri, called Silver Dollar City? It's an amusement park. I've heard that they have like tons of Sasquatch activity there when the place is closed. And there are portals around that place. I've heard that several times. Okay. Silver Dollar City. Never went there.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I'm not from Missouri though, but I've been to Springfield before, but I never went to Silver Dollar City.
Yeah, portals can be anywhere, even in Amy's parents' bathroom. Okay.
And be aware, if you're on property, you've got a portal. Just be aware they're normally like male and female. There's another one somewhere on that property, very close. And people you have people that come in and say, "Oh, I'm gonna close the portal," or these people that come in and don't even really know how to do that. But they'll close one, but they don't get the other one. They leave the other one open, so the activity keeps persisting.
Amy said she was joking, by the way. But honestly, actually, down at our farm, the scariest part of that house is haunted. Okay, our house out on the farm, I was there today, is haunted. Okay, it's been haunted since I was a kid.
Is that the picture you showed recently? That picture? You showed a picture of that, like the house you grew up with or something. You grew up in?
I mean, it was my grandparents' house across the lake from where I lived. I grew up in a log house, like a log cabin. It was a big log cabin, but I don't put pictures. Oh no, that was from the show yesterday with Eric from Paranormal Highway. That was actually an old historical home that was used during the Civil War. It was confiscated during the Civil War, and the generals used it for their headquarters. Yeah, it was one of the only homes that was not burned down in my area where we live. Yeah, and that house was haunted too. I didn't mention that on the show yesterday. That house was super haunted.
Okay, you were on. Is that the show? I was watching the show, and you showed a picture of some house. You said,
that was our family. Yeah, that was my great.
But that place looked haunted to me. It felt haunted.
It was very haunted.
When I looked at it, I was like, yeah.
Well, it was used as a field hospital during the Civil War.
It's weird. I picked up like a general or somebody walking around that property in that house. It's funny you say that. I picked up on that big time. Like even with the Confederate type of
they were Union soldiers. The Union soldiers, the generals took it over, but it was when Sherman was marching through, and they burned everything down here, and took my great-great-grandfather in as a POW and shipped him up north, and people tried to eat him, and he had marks all over his body from cannibalism and all that stuff. We're trying to fight people off from eating him. It was crazy. Like wow. We're not going to get into that, but yeah, that was one of the houses. Listen, every house I'm associated with is haunted. It seems like, except for the one I currently live in. That's not. But yeah, it's Thank you, Danny, for putting that link up there.
Well, I think you've got some excellent comments. I keep looking over there.
Yes.
And the genius people in there saying a lot of really heavy stuff.
We have a great audience tonight. We always have I have the best audience on YouTube and Facebook, everywhere that I'm streaming on different platforms, of course. So everybody that's watching, either at the moment live or in the future or in the past or whenever y'all are here. Time is but an illusion, Barry, right? So
not totally, but we know one thing. It goes forward.
It does go forward.
It goes forward. We know that.
Yeah, it goes forward. Well, it doesn't stop. That's for sure, too, right? Time does not stop. It feels like it does.
Mel's hole, Amy, what's up, Amy? Mel's hole was more of what's also called a Tipler cylinder, the way it was rotating, and she saw it rotating. And I think Tony's group saw that, too, this rotation. So it's more like a Tipler cylinder. So that does make it a portal also, which means it can be used for matter transport and also for transmitting information forwards and backwards in time. So yes would be an answer to that. See, great questions like that in there. Very sharp people. Very sharp people.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's cool.
We did. And the ghosts do love me, I guess. I don't know. I was talking yesterday on my show about the attachment that I had. I had a couple of ghost attachments, Barry, and I don't even know if I've talked to you about this very much, because you talk about earthbound spirits and spirits being attached. And I had an attachment of a Union soldier from Maryland, actually, when I was in my mid-20s, I'm going to say. And I also had a little girl spirit that was attached to me at one point.
Is that the one that came through on the ghost box?
Yes. Yeah. Both of them. And I was able to do some research on the man's name who said that he had been attached to me since I lived in that haunted apartment in Atlanta. And I looked up his name, and he told me how he died, and it totally checked out. I found him, and I found out how he died too, and it completely checked out. Yeah. So
that trauma, I mean, the trauma that happens from war, I'd had this life between lives regression I had done with somebody. And it was really just because was trying to get down to the problem that they have a problem in their foot and leg. Excuse me, these serious pains in their foot and leg, and what was the origin of it. And it turns out that Spirit has me go through a LBL with them, and they're starting talking about when they go back to the last memory from the last lifetime, they start crying, going, "That's when I stepped on this bomb in Vietnam and I blew up. I felt the pain, but then I was just floating." And they're going, then my mom was so proud of my uniform, and my girlfriend's pregnant. I won't see my kid. And, gave me a year that they said they barely served a year. Okay. And I took them even deeper. What year? 1965 is when they said they blew up in Vietnam on this bomb. And then the next thing I asked, what was your full name? And I can say, it's not the actual client's name, but they said, take them deep. Charles Allen Smith is the name they give me. Okay. And this is a female, early 30s. And so we get done with this. I remove the trauma. Okay. Get them emerged and everything. In the session, I get online. I get on the Vietnam Memorial. And I type that name in. And it comes up on there. Served a year on there. 1968 was the year. Deaths from ground mortaring. And everything that this individual said precisely. They said they're from like Louisville, Kentucky, on there, from Kentucky. It's right there. I log on there, and the people on there saying, one person said, "I want to thank my great-grandfather for his service. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be alive." And during this regression, this client is telling me, "I will never see my girl. I'll never see my kid." See what I mean? So technically, I also tell the client, "Hey, look at this memorial. That's like your family on there leaving comments." I mean, how crazy is that? But it is what it is. You can't fake that stuff. I mean, it was exactly everything that she had said. So many of these things, do I have to accept that there's maybe not transmigration of the soul, but there's also transgender, definitely. I've encountered that several times now. All right.
Yeah.
And it also shows how long it is between the times that we can reincarnate. It's not all that long. And I think it's getting even shorter as we go forward with whatever cycle we're in right now.
Wow. And we come back as male and female and all that.
Yeah, that's so weird. I don't want to take us way off topic. I'm probably going way off.
Well, that's okay. Field, yeah, well, people are very interested in the chat too, wondering about the attachments. I mean, yes, I think a lot of us have had attachments, especially when I was at let's just say maybe a lower vibration when I was younger and I wasn't aware of my spirituality. Like I wasn't fully aware that there was even an issue. And going out and having fun and staying out a little too late and hanging out with my friends and drinking and all that kind of stuff, you're more prone to getting a spirit attachment by a person, a spirit, a soul that's just hanging around and it wants to experience those fun times. So they just hop aboard. All aboard the crazy train.
Those deals is making me think of our friend Bigfoot Rob, Michigan Rob.
That's right.
He had some ghosts in the bar there, still trying to party. You know what I mean? Still looking for the deleterious effects of the substance. And, the same thing with earthbounds that are so in the energy field, people that I can't detect them unless the person is hypnotized and I can really get them to come forward. You know what I mean? But a lot of times they'll tell me, they'll say, well, I would like, let's say these kids, the kid said, I was young. My parents were these strict Catholics. I couldn't do anything. And I was on my way to school and I had a car accident or a bus accident, whatever it was. And said, so then I started joining with people that were going to school and people that were partying. I started being able to party and do everything. I had no restrictions from my parents. But then after a while, like the buzz starts wearing off. They don't get the same elation from it, but they're still having the client getting drunk and getting wasted, but then they're not staying high. So then before they leave the client, they'll tell them, well, since I wasn't getting buzzed anymore, I told them, hey, I don't like your girlfriend. I don't like your boyfriend. Tell them to F off, fight with them, or hurt these people, hurt them. They'll say that.
Yeah. It gets you in
and
trouble.
It ruins people's lives, and they're unaware of it.
Absolutely. And it makes you black out drunk and stuff like that. It's very dangerous.
And they're expressing themselves through the client strictly as negative behavior patterns. Normally the one that kept them here. It's really a trip.
It is. Shucking It Down has a question. Is it possible that we as humans are a target because we are made in God's image? What do you think, Barry?
I think I would have to agree with that, but really it's coming from the side of not our physicality. of our immortal souls, of our spirit overall, how that is truly a piece of the Creator, and how in that way the creative principle crosses us, meaning that we are creators in that way. And that's got a lot to do with our immortality, and a lot of times a lot to do with our being a part of the Creator. And something that, like, for example, I hear like Linda Moulton Howe asking that a lot, people like that saying that they're wondering that these extraterrestrials, something like the Greys, are saying that we're wondering, where do humans go when we die? Meaning that they don't know. They're dealing with something totally different, a different level. Where do we go? You know, how do we come back? They don't know what part of God. That's the part of God that is definitely within God, the Creator's image, is immortality, our soul, our spirit, all these things, our soul and spirit put together, that whole package. That's really where it's at. So I think that makes us a huge target. And as far as these bodies that we have that are often called the Adam Kadmon, okay, which is supposed to be the blueprint for the humanity's body, this body, they can be augmented in so many different ways. So, you know, you have certain things that make this a durable frame for other worlds that are much more, probably, it's not really cut out for this one, but it's something that can be experimented with all throughout galaxies, not just the Milky Way, galaxies.
Wow.
So in that way, I would agree. I'm sorry, that was a way long, drawn out answer to what they just asked. But that was a great question.
That's a good answer.
And I would say yes, you know, in that way. I think that we'd be sought of. And there's also example, just to add to that a little bit, there are a lot of souls that want to incarnate here and get a body and live just for the physical third dimensional sensations we get. I mean, you can eat here, you eat something here, it's so great. You can feel things, get some good sex. Yes, you know what I mean? It's like, man, that all that stuff is really, really in the sensual, stories. Sorry.
Sensual.
Yeah. I'm not trying to say that word, really.
Extrasensory.
Thank you. That's better. Yes.
Yeah.
Sensory. Yeah. But in reality, that means there are a lot of entities want to come in here and incarnate here and live and go through that for the pleasure of the senses alone. And then you've got these other beings that are coming here from other galaxies, like what I've dealt with before. And I tell you, some of them have different containers for consciousness because they're basically just thought forms, consciousness. And they've got these other thought forms, but they're trying to get clone bodies and doing all these things so that they can walk around down here and experience this too, along with tricking half of us and humanity and controlling the place too. Great. You know, they get 2 for 1.
Right. Okay. We have a question from Aussie Sue. Okay. Barry, are these two-faced demons found everywhere or only in certain areas?
Ooh, that's a good question. You know, I've heard I'd heard in Africa, especially in other certain parts of Africa, especially Southern Africa, South Africa, and then there were what that other gentleman talked about, the Rikishi. They're somewhat similar. So I'd say that those seem to be the areas, India and Africa, that I've heard more of concentration of that than anywhere else. Other places seems like in the Americas and like the Himalayas and things like that, I hear more about what we call skinwalkers, you know, which are actually putting on the thing and morphing in that way. So I don't know. So that's the locality I've heard is those areas, Aussie Sue. But I can't say that they're relegated to that. You know, I'd imagine that there's stuff going on all over in these different cultures. We just don't hear about it. You know, different names, different terms.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, well, and I also brought up it was like a demon out of India as well. What was the name of that? I wrote it down. The
Rikishi,
Rakshasa, let's see if I can pronounce it. The Rakshasa is what that is, out of India. So it's like a two-faced demon as well. So that's there. Also, I just saw a comment from Danny saying that Eric was in the hospital today. So everybody, please send prayers, love and light and good energy to Eric with Paranormal Highway. He was on my show yesterday. He's having some issues with a bad headache or something, according to what Danny wrote. So, so everybody send good energy Eric's way. He's a great guy. Okay. And yeah, we don't We don't like it when our friends are hurting. Okay. Not at all. So, okay. Well, I was seeing if we had any more questions in the chat tonight. I say we just wrap it up tonight, Barry, because this has been a great show. It's been a wonderful chat. I mean, we have, like I said, we have the best chat in all the internet.
It's always a pleasure working with you, you know, very much so.
Thank you.
It's good information because everything you and I have done is not cookie cutter. And right now, when I'm hearing so many people talking and so many people that are gurus and knowledgeable, but you know, it's all the same stuff. And I've been hearing this stuff since like the 80s, so it gets very repetitious. And I look for things that are different, you know, things that are not cookie cutter. I think that's important. I think that's how we advance forward and expand our consciousness for real. That's where it's at.
Absolutely. Okay. Yes. I'm always down for some interesting targets. And, you know, I was going through a lot of the suggestions that the audience has given me. I think next week I want to do a target that the audience has suggested because there's so many. I'm just going to put them in a big old bowl and we're going to pick some. Okay. And Barry, you can help me. We'll assign some numbers to some of those and we're going to start just drawing targets out of this bowl and start doing some of what the audience wants to. I think it's important to do that every now and then because the audience has got some great ideas. I was like looking at that one the other day, like the butterfly people or something like that.
Wow.
I don't know who suggested that, but that was a great target. I've never even heard of it. Like butterfly people that showed up during a tornado or something like that. Dude. Okay.
Sound like Earth Seraphim to me.
Oh, we have to start. We have to look into this stuff too. This is wild. I mean, and then somebody had suggested a while back do like mammoth caves and what's inside of those things. And it's just fun. Oh my gosh. Jane, thank you for being here today too. Thank y'all. Thank everybody in the chat. Thank y'all for being here. I want to thank all my moderators for being here. And yes, let's see. Trying to finish up, make sure I don't have any more questions. Thank everybody for being here today. And Barry, you are amazing. You just give me the best targets. Who'd have thought there was a hyena-headed man that the hyena hides in his dreadlocks. And he can twist his head around and eat a woman whenever he's done with her.
Thank you for doing the target. Thank you for the audience for listening and being accepting. And like I say all the time, you know, it's really a pleasure to work for you or work with you rather. And I was at a point that, you know, I didn't know I was going to be doing much of this anymore, but I've had so much joy out of what we do. It's really fun. And you're doing this for the right reason. You know, it's not about the fame bug hasn't bit you. It's not about that. You know what I mean? Nobody's making any money on this. It's just simply because you enjoy what you're doing and it's helping. It's helping. That's where really this is all at. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you being like that and being really genuine. And that's cool.
Thank you.
For the right reasons.
Well, thank you. I'm just having fun. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just over here doing it and having a really good time. Listen, if I wasn't having fun, I wouldn't do it. I'm just saying. That was when I first started doing all this. I was like, all right, I'm going to do this and we're going to try it out and it's going to be fun. I'm having a good time. And when it's not fun anymore, I'm going to quit doing it. But it's never not been fun. Like it gets more fun every day, no matter what the universe throws at me. I'm still kicking ass and taking names over here. And so yeah, I don't see me stopping anytime soon.
So you're better. You're better than me. You know, you're good at, you know, you're very positive. Like for me, you know, because the attacks come, and that's the thing the dark forces want to take from you is the pleasure from it. See, and you're not better than me. You just gotta, you know, keep marching on. Where I'm that brother, I will tell you, I'm not that brother. I will tell someone off. I've never been that guy. I don't like that. So you know what I mean?
That's WWF coming out. WCW.
No. It's that beat up. It's that beat up B-ism. But you know what I mean? I just don't like some things. But I've gotten a thicker skin and just realized that in some ways these fields and these subjects are like moth to flame for those that are sometimes delusional or mentally ill. You know what I mean? Or just liars. And so once you weed through that, though, and see you have people like your audience here, that makes it worth it, you know?
Absolutely. Best audience ever. And thank you, Shucking It Down with Cornbread. This is what I come home for. That is so sweet. That means a lot. I'm assuming you're talking about the show. That just makes my day. Yeah,
I like
everybody's
that
making
name.
my day.
I like that name.
Yes, everything goes good with cornbread. That's all. Yeah.
There's an old movie
just
called
about everything.
Cornbread and Me that I used to like back in the 70s.
I love you. I love you kicking arse. I love that. Thank you, Aussie Sue. Y'all are all the best. Y'all are awesome. And yeah. Okay. So everybody, y'all please come join me this weekend. I'm going to be on Spaced Out Radio. Kira's part of my Spaced Out Radio family over there. I have Wayne Thothrow coming on Saturday night, and he's with Paranormal Odyssey. So we've got some. He actually does research up in North Georgia where I do. So we got a lot to talk about on Saturday night. So y'all please come join me 10 p.m. Eastern Saturday night, and I'll be back Sunday too. Barry, where can everybody find you? Please let my audience know.
I'm on Patreon and YouTube. I'm gonna start doing more on Patreon. I kind of fell off, but YouTube, I've got a lot of stuff on there. Good place to check me out. If you go to there, Barry Littleton, just on YouTube, but check out the playlist because a lot of things won't come up unless you look through this playlist. So
okay,
that's a good place. I'm at BarryLittleton.com also, but I don't do much on there. I think I'm going to try to re-up that website before I do this conference on November 10th, 11th, and 12th. I'll be in Las Vegas at Jenny Church's Stairway to the Stars conference. Looking forward to meeting people there and kind of hanging out a little and try to exchange some good information.
Oh my gosh. I would love to go to that. That's going to be awesome. There's some big names, including yourself, that are going to be there. And yeah, I can't wait to hear all about that.
People. That'll be exciting.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. It is. Okay, well, everybody, if y'all would like to get access to all my remote viewing data, it is on Patreon. That's the Cryptid Huntress over on Patreon. You guys go check out my website too if you'd like to get in touch with me and send me some remote viewing target suggestions. I would love to have those. Y'all are the best. Okay. All right, Barry. Well, have a wonderful night. And I will see you guys this weekend on Space Out Radio. Y'all take care and be sure to check the back of these men's heads, okay, before y'all go on a date. Okay. That's all it is. Bye, y'all.